Hey everyone, it's Nico, and I've got Pampas Selene here, which is available now on Nintendo Switch. It's already available on Steam. It came out earlier this year, and this is pretty unique in that it's an 8-bit co-op Metroidvania. And it plays a lot like a retro Metroidvania, but it incorporates a lot of modern elements that makes this game infinitely better than it would have been if they stuck solely with the retro aesthetic. So in this game, you have two different characters. There's Pampas, which is the knight, and Selene, which is your wizard or your mage character. And if you play this in single player, you can switch freely between the two characters at the press of a button, and it's really seamless and fast. If you play this in co-op, you'll split the duties and you'll each play as one of the two. And I unfortunately didn't get a chance to try the co-op. I don't have anybody to play local with, since this is only local, obviously. And that's unfortunate, but that's just the reality of it. So I played through the entirety of this in single player. So just understand that I unfortunately won't have any thoughts on the co-op aspect of this, which is pretty cool that it exists at all. Now, the way it works with the two characters is actually really fun, because each character has their own kit, has their own equipment that makes them unique from one another. And there's times where, you know, Pampas will be the better character to use. He's a knight, he has a sword, he has a shield to deflect incoming projectiles. He'll also gain other abilities over the course of the adventure. And the same goes for Selene, although she has more range. She has like a lightning bolt attack that she uses her wand for, and then she could shoot a fireball for range, whereas Pampas has a bow and arrow for range. And like, she can go underwater for longer periods of time. And then, like I said, there's equipment you'll acquire that'll expand the kit. But since I don't want to ruin the charm and the experience, you might see some of these things in the gameplay, but I'm not going to talk about them. But each character, by the end, will have a pretty varied kit. They also can both run, which is a little bit awkward when you get to the end of your run, because you go into like this slide, and then you can't really move for a second. So I didn't really like that about the run, but it's cool that you can move a little faster. The map is fairly symmetrical as a whole, but I did enjoy the different biomes it has. It has a lot of different enemy types for each one. There's frequent save points, which are essentially manual save points. You'll see like a little 3.5-inch floppy disk, which you just touch it and the game will save. And if you happen to die in the game, you'll just respawn wherever you last saved. And your quests that you're given throughout the game are all given to you through the various gods like Hades and Zeus and Athena, you know, stuff like that. When they give you quests, this is all easily tracked by just pressing the left bumper button, and it actually brings up your quest screen, and it shows each of the gods as you speak to them. Now, in the beginning, it won't show them until you talk to them for the first time, but each one of them will give you a quest, and it'll track it here for you, which is obviously a really modern touch. And that makes it so that if you forget something, or maybe you accept multiple quests and you're trying to keep track of who asked you to do what, you don't have to return to each one. And not just that though, but on your map, which you always have a mini map in the bottom corner, pressing the right bumper will also bring up a full map. It'll give you, you know, either a flashing spot, or sometimes there will be a little dot that blinks when you have an objective that's there. It tracks all of your quests and like your objectives in a really modern way, and that helps to cut down quite a bit on the frustration of maybe feeling lost or clueless on what you're supposed to do. So I really appreciated that modern aspect of it, and it made it a lot more fun in my opinion. Now, even though it tracks all these things really well for you, that doesn't mean that there's no room for exploration. There absolutely is. There's a pretty large map with like a few hundred rooms total, and there's even some secret rooms that you can find that will give you extra treasure and things like that. So they encourage exploration, absolutely. But there's going to be a lot of times where, in typical Metroidvania fashion, where you can't proceed in a specific direction because maybe you don't have an ability yet that you need to progress past that point. Maybe there's a locked gate or something like that. So it does still handle the flow of the gameplay in that way. The inventory in this game, there is such a massive quantity of inventory to acquire. Each character has their own equipment, but then there's also shared items. In some of these items, like their responsibilities are kind of spread across multiple items. For example, like fast travel, right? Like fast travel is an important part of Metroidvanias. There's not just one point where you fully unlock fast travel. There's like multiple ways where you can fast travel. The first is like there's these little tunnels, and the tunnels will allow you to quickly zip around a specific biome, but you can only use these to travel within one specific biome. But then you'll get an item that'll allow you to quickly fast travel like back to the start point, the entry point of the castle. And there's another one that'll let you fast travel to the dungeons or fast travel to the gods. These things are like spread out across multiple items. So you won't just have an all or nothing type of fast travel. You'll acquire a little bit more flexibility in it as you play through the game, which was a bit different. And I honestly think I missed for a while the most important fast travel item, and it made me backtrack a lot more than hopefully the average player will have to. So that felt a little bit tedious, but then I was like, oh, I missed this item. I could have got this a long time ago. So that was on me, but that kind of stunk. Your main goal in this is to simply find all the dungeons and then eliminate the boss at the end of each one. Now, each of the dungeons has a map that's laid out pretty similar to like the original Legend of Zelda on NES. And I think that was probably an inspiration here because just the way the game flows is really similar to the Legend of Zelda. Like, you have all these dungeons that you have to go to and eliminate the boss in and acquire their heart essentially at the end of. And then you need to get all of them before you can access the final boss. So it has that same concept. Like in Zelda, you needed all the Triforce pieces from all the dungeons. In this, you need all the boss hearts before you'll be able to fight the final boss. In each of the dungeons has 8 runes that you need to acquire before you can even access the boss as well. So you can't just zip through these dungeons. You have to be pretty thorough in exploring these. Some of the runes will be hidden in secrets. Others will be pretty much in plain sight, but you need all of them before you'll be able to access the boss fights. And the bosses in this game are the bulk of the difficulty. I found them all to be enjoyable. There was a few times where I felt a bit frustrated by a boss, where maybe I stumbled into a dungeon that wasn't technically the one I was supposed to be in, because since this is like an open world Metroidvania, like you can kind of pick and choose your own path. There's not a definitive linear path that you're supposed to travel on. And so I would like teleport out, try and power up, and then come back. And most of the way you power up in this is going to be finding new items and equipment. There's shops in the game, which each shop has healing items and also ammo for your ranged attacks, which I didn't mention yet. Both characters' ranged attacks have ammunition, so arrows for Pampas, and Selene has like these magic orbs. But each shop that you find, you can spend your gold on and acquire a unique item. So each shop has one unique item, and these are really helpful. You'll also gain XP in the game through combat, but it works a little bit differently in that you have the maximum possible health will be shown by the bar, but then there's a white line. And if the white line in your health bar for a character isn't at the rightmost edge, that means that leveling up with that character will increase their max health. You don't gain increased damage or anything like that. Only increased health, and you'll only gain increased health if you still have room on that health bar to level up and to improve it. Once you get to max at that point, it won't increase anymore. But to get back to the bosses, These were really challenging, but also incredibly satisfying to overcome. I did get frustrated a few times as I worked my way through the regular bosses, but then the bulk of my frustrations with the entire game as a whole, unfortunately, comes from the final boss fight, which for spoiler reasons I won't show. I'll just talk about it briefly. And the final boss is unholy difficult. You will need to absolutely master both characters and their entire kits at that point, and have quick reflexes and fully understand how to dodge every single one of this final boss's attacks. Otherwise, you will get destroyed. This took me probably like a dozen tries to get through, and I found it to be a little bit too much of a difficulty spike. It was satisfying to finally defeat the final boss, but just know going into this, it's really difficult, and the only way to get through it is just to learn its patterns and to overcome it. Be better than the game, because there's no way to cheese it, at least to my understanding. I didn't certainly see a way. You take some mega damage, and even one of your characters depleting their health bar is a game over. This isn't a scenario where if a character perishes, you could just use the other one. If either character dies, you fail. So you need to make sure that if a character's one hit, you switch to the other. The ending was really satisfying, and I enjoyed the game as a whole, genuinely. I had so much fun with this. In single player, I wish I could have at least tried the co-op, because I think the concept would be really unique and fun as long as you have somebody that's fairly decent and close to your skill level to play with. I could see it maybe being a bit frustrating since each character has their own strengths and weaknesses. So if the character playing as the knight, for example, isn't really pulling their weight, I could see that being frustrating. But switching between the two characters was so much fun. I'm the type of player that typically when I play a game, I almost always go for like the knight characters or the warriors with the sword and the shield. I very rarely use magic wielding characters, but in this, I think I used Selene a little bit more than I used Pampas, and genuinely, I switched between them constantly because the game wants you to. The game almost forces you to, because there's situations where each character is stronger than the other, and I love that about it. I didn't just settle in with one character and just ignore the other. The game forced me to be thoughtful in my choices, and I really appreciated that, and it made it so much more fun than it would have been if I just played as one character the whole time. I would say I probably had like a 60-40 split where I played as Selene just a little bit more than I played as Pampas, but as a whole, having the game designed well enough where it forces you to use both was really great. This game is an absolute steal in my opinion at $10. I got like 9 hours of gameplay out of it, and I didn't find all the secrets, therefore I didn't complete the entirety of the map. There's a bunch of achievements, there's a lot of extras that they added for the Steam and Switch releases over the original MSX2 release, and so there's a lot of content here. And there's a lot of aspects in this game that left me almost in awe at how well designed this is. For a game that was made by such a small team, everything felt so meaningful. The music was great. I love the pixel art, the placement of the save points in the dungeons, and all these things, and the way fast travel works when you have it fully unlocked, and the secrets, and the kits for both characters. As a whole, I really can't think of anything that I didn't like about this game. This was one of my favorite games I played this year, especially in the Metroidvania genre, and I think it might be the only one that I played that's like the retro aesthetic Metroidvania. I play more modern Metroidvanias because that's what most are, but this one was so much fun to play through, and I can't possibly recommend you play this one enough if you enjoy Metroidvanias, and especially if you also enjoy retro games, since this is the 8-bit style. I was really excited to share this game with you guys, and hopefully you'll give it a look if you haven't heard of it before. If you have any questions, I tried to cover all the bases without going too in-depth and spoiling any of this game's charm, but I'll do my best to answer them as long as it's not going to spoil anything for anyone else. so feel free to leave any questions in the comment section below. Appreciate you watching this review. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And until next time, have a good one.